So right off the bat, not only is WWE giving the Divas longer matches, but now they're getting more build-up, spotlight, and attention. As great as all of that is, I can't help but feel a little bit like, okay, so WWE knew what was wrong with the division, and they could have fixed this at any time they wanted to, but instead of doing this after the Give Divas a Chance movement, they purposely waited until the NXT Divas came up, so they can bill them as the saviors of the division, when what's really going to save the division is the way WWE treats them. But anyway, it was a triple threat match. Charlotte versus Sasha Banks versus Brie Bella. As much as I would have loved Nikki to have been in this match instead, Brie probably needed this opportunity a little more, because it has been a while since she's been put into a big spot like this where she can showcase what she's capable of. And from what she did, she hung in there pretty well and had some of the best spots in the match. I especially like the tribute to Daniel Bryan. It's about time that they stop getting a divorce every time that Brie turns heel. And for anyone that's going to try to say that, oh, Brie didn't do anything in this match, Brie was involved for 6.5 minutes. That includes offense, bumping, and selling, which is all part of wrestling. Now, you can tell that the NXT Divas aren't used to working last-minute matches. They usually need to practice and plan stuff out, which is why most of the time you saw Sasha and Charlotte working against each other, doing the same spots that they're used to doing with each other on NXT and house shows. And from what I can tell, it doesn't look like they're holding back any moves either. Usually when they get to the main roster, they have to adjust to the main roster style. But based off this match, it looks like they're still doing a lot of the same things that they do on NXT. Then it was Brie Bella versus Charlotte. My only complaint about this match was I wanted to see Brie pull out her old moves again. I mean, if Sasha Banks can do a tilt-a-roll and a suicide dive as a heel, there's no reason why Brie couldn't bring back the Northern Light suplex, the rolling Boston Crab, and all her other moves that she used to do. Because even though she's doing a good job of hanging with the NXT Divas, she needs to start giving them a run for their money. And she definitely has the potential to do that. All she has to do is channel that same fire that she had from 2013 to last year. And I don't think she's been doing enough of that as of recently. So hopefully she starts stepping it up. Then it was Team Bad versus Team Becky Lynch. You can tell that they're trying to mix their NXT styles with their main roster style. This match was structured the same way that all Diva tag team matches are done, but at the same time, they were also trying to maintain that same fast-paced, rough spot NXT style match. But Paige ended up tapping out to Sasha Banks, thank God. And this was the first match, fun fact, since Survivor Series that Paige lost clean. That's right. For 240 days, Paige could not lose one single match without making the opponent look like a fluke. Then it was Team Bad versus Team Nikki in what was the longest Divas match in SmackDown history. This was one of those matches that I wish could have been copy and pasted to Raw, because this was exactly the type of performance that we needed to see. We got real wrestling out of Nikki, which is on par with NXT. She even moved at a quicker pace to prove that she can keep up with the NXT style. And there was even an epic Nikki and Sasha confrontation. And from all the teasers we've been getting over the last couple of weeks, it looks like they are setting up Nikki versus Sasha to be the big diva feud that they go for this year. It does look like Charlotte might be the first one to get a title shot though. And I think the best thing that they can do is to let Nikki retain the title a couple of times before she drops it. That way her credibility goes up, and the NXT diva that does take the belt from her will look that much better when it happens, because the other NXT divas weren't able to do it. So I think they should let Nikki beat Charlotte for the title. That way Sasha Banks looks that much better when she beats Nikki. Because I think the potential of Nikki versus Sasha is the best feud that they can go with to cap this storyline off. Moving on to NXT, Eva Marie took on Cassie, who I guess is their new favorite jobber, and I can see why. She's probably the best worker out of all the jobbers they have right now. But this was the debut of the new and improved Eva Marie. Now, right off the bat, you can tell that Eva is still working through a lot of the usual kinks of the timing, execution, and selling, but everyone has those kinks early on. Carmella, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte, hell, Paige still goes through all of that today. That's nothing that can't be worked on over time. What you should be looking at is the potential. And for this technically being her first real match, she showed a lot of potential. She's going for a combination of an athletic and aggressive style, and she pulls it off like a pro. Her biggest strength is her character. She knows how to mix the right amount of fire and attitude to her moves to give it that extra edge. And that's really the only area that she needs to excel in. But it looks like she's going to go above and beyond that. And I definitely think that by the time she has her first takeover match, she's going to make Sasha Banks look as bad as Paige did when she debuted. Then it was Bayley versus Emma with Dana Brooke in her corner. I'm surprised they're keeping Emma and Dana as a tag team. This was an awkward pairing from the start, and I don't think they've shown much chemistry since being put together. But anyway, it looks like Bayley is being built up to carry the division now that all the top stars have been demoted to the main roster. And I like this because Bayley has been there the longest, yet has never had her moment. So rather than do to her what they did with Emma, they're going to build her up to have that crowning moment that we've all been waiting for and possibly build the division around her for the next few months. So that's great. This is actually better for Bayley than debuting along with everyone else. So I look forward to the era of Hug. Moving on to Tough Enough. Believe it or not, this episode made me hate Sarah Lee. The thing that made Sarah Lee different was that she wasn't fake, she didn't start drama to get attention, and she didn't have to brag about being different just so people will like her. That all changed with this episode. She stopped being Sarah Lee and started turning into Paige. And of course, now Paige is going to take her side, but then she gets pissed off at Patrick for doing the exact same thing. And you know what? Let me go on this rant since Jonathan Lex asked my thoughts about the way Paige acts like a judge. This episode was the epitome of what a hypocrite Paige is in real life. She tries to lecture all the challengers like a snobby know-it-all, like if she's so perfect, telling them what they're not supposed to do, yet on the very same episode, she does exactly that. She cuts an angry rant on Patrick about how he needs to be humble and, stop coming across like he's better than everyone. 5 minutes later, she's bashing Megan Miller by bragging about herself like, oh, you can't work with a broken leg? Well, I was able to wrestle after MTO hit me with a car. And you want to talk about a lack of respect? How about the fact that you constantly interrupt other people in the middle of their sentences just to pointlessly insult them to get your own crappy jokes over? And don't even get me started on the audacity of her trying to judge personality when her entire personality is that she's AJ Lee. She stole AJ's gimmick during their feud, and she never stopped using it. She even still skips to the ring, but that's an entirely separate rant for another time. She is legitimately coming across like a bitch on this show, and now it's rubbing off on Sarah Lee. So if this continues, I might just hop on Team Gigi, because for a bikini model, at least she's getting the job done. So it was Sasha Banks versus Paige in a 2-hour-long match. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I don't think Sasha and Paige meshed that well together in the ring. This had the same vibes as the AJ and Paige matches, where the contrast of styles doesn't really mix that well together. They did some decent spots where they mixed it up, but the overall pace of the match didn't really have a consistent flow. It went from one gear to another and then back to the other, and there was something about their moves that didn't really click that well together. But I don't know, maybe I'm just nitpicking because Paige thinks she's so perfect on Tough Enough, but anyway, the match was solid for what it was, but I don't think Sasha and Paige are the best opponents for each other. I think Paige would click better against Becky Lynch and Charlotte, while Sasha's best matches, I think, are going to be against Naomi and Nikki. I mean, at least Nikki can actually sell the bank statement, but that's another topic for another time. Then it was Team Bella versus Team Becky Lynch. The match itself wasn't anything special, but there were a few details to take out of it. For one, it's great that Nikki is continuing to look the strongest against the NXT Divas, which is what it needs to be. She needs to look credible. She needs to prove that she's on their level, and she needs to be presented like she's the best of the best right now, because she is. That way, when someone does beat her, it's a big deal. And I'm really looking forward to her having singles matches against any of these divas, because she's the only one that hasn't had one so far. I think her and Becky showed some potential here, and I think Alicia Fox and Charlotte showed a lot of potential as well. You know, aside from the fact that Charlotte almost killed her, but the way they move together and the way their styles blend, I think this has potential to be one of the better pairings of the Revolution. On to main event. It was Brie Bella versus Becky Lynch. This was originally supposed to be Nikki versus Becky, but I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because that's the kind of match that should be saved for Raw, where more people are going to see it. But as far as this match goes, I can see what they were doing. They were going for a slower, more technical pace, arm versus arm, which makes sense since they're both in-ring technicians in a way, and this is the kind of style that makes NXT TakeOver matches so great. See Sasha versus Becky. The only thing that kind of hurts these matches is that this type of style doesn't usually get over that well with the casuals. Now, if you put this exact match under an NXT environment, this would feel like a technical wrestling classic. But under a WWE environment, it's kind of weakened because the crowds aren't as into it. So without that energy, and since the action is a lot more slow paced, to some people that can make the match feel boring if they don't understand the style. But for what this match was, it was a solid technical wrestling bout, and it was another example of Brie hanging in there well with Becky. Moving on to NXT, it was Charlotte versus Dana Brooke. This was pretty much Dana's first real opportunity to have somewhat of a defining match. Unfortunately, I don't think this did as much for Dana as it probably should have. I don't know whether it's her own limitations or if they just don't trust her with bigger moves, but it seems like she's being limited to punches and holds. And yeah, she does have the charisma and personality to make up for that, but there's only so much that can do without anything else to help back it up. And it's been the same thing with Summer Rae as well, where the style they work doesn't really fit with their personality and potential. Dana Brooke has the perfect combination of power and athleticism, so it shouldn't be too hard for her to tweak that around to come up with a moveset that works for her, because right now, I don't think she's showing her full potential. So on to Tough Enough. The drama on the show is just getting ridiculously forced right now. They're not even trying to make it convincing. It's like the producers are just going, hey, we need you guys to fight about something. Well, damn, what can we fight about? Well, hey, why does your hair look like mine? But anyway, Team Black Angry Divas were the guests on the show, and each contestant had to lay down while Tamana slipped off the top rope right next to them. All the contestants were laughing at Tamana, but I mean, really, how else are they supposed to react to some guy flailing in the air, falling on his knees, and lightly tripping over them? I mean, if they really wanted a more devastating move, they should have just had Naomi hit everyone with the rear view. But anyway, The Miz was awesome as a judge. I don't think anyone realizes just how smart he was right here. What he was trying to do was get rid of ZZ. He put Mata in the bottom three because he was the most popular guy next to ZZ, so he stood the most chance to outvote him. And he saved Amanda because he knew that she was going to get the least amount of votes. So no matter what you want to say about The Miz, you gotta give him credit for being clever. And not only that, but he also sees the potential in Amanda. A lot of people got stuck on him saying that he saved her because she's hot, when that's not the case at all. He saved her because he sees the potential. He sees the it factor in her. He knows that she is someone who has the potential to be a great personality and a draw in the Divas division, which is true. When you look at her, you see a WWE diva. You see the next Maryse, the next Melina, the next Nikki Bella. So The Miz does have a good eye for talent, whereas Paige clearly doesn't know what talent is. I mean, the fact that she thinks she herself has more talent than someone like Amanda is just laughable. And her trying to bury Amanda's skills, despite the fact that she cut a better promo in 30 seconds than Paige's entire career, is just ridiculous. But hey, Paige has an ego. What else is new? So it was Team Bella versus Team Bang Bros. I was kind of disappointed that this was a tag team match instead of Nikki versus Becky, especially with this week, now that we know that they have no problem having either Nikki or an NXT diva take a loss. Although, with the way that both matches were done, I don't think either Nikki or Charlotte should have lost this week. I think their first losses should have been more significant. But then again, I guess the argument could be made that this does make the matches less predictable, which I can understand, but I really don't think that Nikki should have taken a loss until at least SummerSlam. Because if Nikki is going to be on the road to 300 days, now is the time for WWE to make up for all the lackluster booking over the past few months by making Nikki look as strong of a champion as possible. Let her defend the title on Raw or SmackDown. Make her the strongest diva to beat. And most importantly, make her title reign the center of this revolution. Have everyone gunning for her. Everyone wanting to end her reign. Make her the most must-beat diva on the roster. These next couple of months could be what helps take Nikki reign to the next level. Because if you remember, AJ's reign, aside from the first couple of months, wasn't really that great. So if Nikki's last couple of months as champion can be better than that, then there will be no question about it that she is the greatest Divas champion of all time. You know, even though she already is. Then it was Paige versus Naomi. This wasn't their best match together, but the thing to really take out of this match was just how great Naomi looked in the ring. She's really developed into a strong heel personality, to where everything she does in the ring is just about flawless. From the aggression that she delivers her moves with, to her heelish mannerisms, right down to the trash talking. I really like the whole "kiss my lights" and "you're damn right" O lines. Those were heel gold. So Naomi has really been stepping it up as of lately and holding her ground pretty well, which she really needed to do because she has the most to prove in this revolution. If she doesn't deliver, then by the end of this angle, she'll be right back to where she was before her heel turn, and she knows that, so she's giving everything that she has to stay relevant. Then there's the Summer Rae and Lana feud. The unfortunate thing is, this feud didn't turn out to be as big of a deal as it looked like it was going to be at first, but for what it is, it's been pretty entertaining. They've even been a part of the last two main event matches on Raw and SmackDown. Summer Rae has really been stepping up as a character and is starting to show shades of her true potential that's been wasted for the last 2 years. Whereas Lana, I feel, has regressed dramatically. Her character overall has lost every trait that made it great in the first place. Even her promos have been really bad as of lately, and she's not really that over anymore. I said it before, and I'll say it again. she's not Lana anymore. She's Russian Kelly Kelly. Then on SmackDown, it was Team Bad versus Team 50 Shades of Grey. Now, it started out as a regular Charlotte versus Naomi match, which showed some decent chemistry for the short time that it had. It looks like Charlotte is at her best when she's working with someone just as athletic as she is. Then it transitioned into a tag team match that went on for 20 minutes. But this match featured all three of the NXT Divas, and Naomi didn't look out of place at all. In fact, she fit right in with them. I think I'm starting to notice, though, that when the NXT Divas have to work the same style as the other Divas, they perform at just about the same level as everyone else, which pretty much reinforces my point that if the NXT Divas are equal under the main roster environment, then imagine how the rest of the Divas would perform under the NXT environment. That's the thing. When people talk about how much better NXT is than the main roster, they're not taking into account the different level of standards that they're allowed to perform at. That's why I believe that the majority of the Divas at their full potential are around the same level of talent. The difference is we don't get to see the main roster at their full potential. Except for Paige. Paige is easily the worst wrestler out of all of them, whether she's on the main roster or NXT. On to Tough Enough. The Miz once again proved how much of a genius he is. He knew that Paige was going to try to get rid of Amanda out of jealousy, so he lied about putting her in the bottom three to make sure that Paige didn't screw her, which she did try to do by putting Sarah in the bottom three, knowing that she was going to get the most amount of votes, which would have made it even more difficult for Amanda. So no matter what you think about The Miz as a judge, you gotta admit, he knows how to play the game. But Paige saved Gigi, who shouldn't have been in the bottom three to begin with, but I do think it's pretty funny how Daniel Bryan was suddenly so butthurt by that broken neck comment. I mean, what's wrong, D-Bry? I thought it was so funny to make fun of other people's tragedies. I mean, you love to do it with Nikki all the time. Well, you know what, D-Bry? If you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen, you whiny, sniveling little rich bitch. But anyway, Megan Miller was eliminated, and at this point, I don't think eliminations matter that much, because everyone except ZZ and Sarah is going to get eliminated, unless they change things up at the last minute when it comes to the final four and leave it up to the judges who becomes the next superstar. Although at this point, I'd rather ZZ win over the other two jobbers, and Sarah Lee is going to win either way. I did think it was funny, though, how Paige suddenly doesn't care about the popularity contest, even though her main excuse to defend herself from being racist and eliminating Patrick was, oh, see, fans don't want him here. They know what's best for business. And then she tried to pull that thing with Mata last week about how Mata shouldn't have been eliminated because fans voted for him the most. And this week she's defending Gigi for getting the least amount of votes. But hey, Paige is a hypocrite. But that's none of my business. But anyway, Lita was wearing a Brie mode shirt, so hopefully this is the first of many teasers to build up for the long-anticipated Besties vs. Bellas WrestleMania match next year. So on to Total Divas. The last few episodes haven't been very good to Nikki. Every episode, she's getting bullied by talentless jobbers that are jealous of her success. First it was that red-headed spawn of Satan. Then it was that random 16-year-old Make-A-Wish fan that screwed her out of a WrestleMania moment. Then from that troll, she gets bullied by another troll in Daniel Bryan. And then she gets bullied by that Hot Topic shopping, guy from White Chicks looking, Dobby the elf sounding, hypocritical, disrespectful, pale Kelly Kelly. But whatever. Haters gonna hate, Bella's gonna ball. At the end of the day, Nikki Bella is still the greatest Divas champion of all time, and there's nothing any of those haters can say about it.